So for many of you watching this right now, one of your biggest life goals is probably to achieve financial freedom. That point in your life where you can quit your day job and pursue what you're truly passionate about in life. But the truth is, most people have no idea what that looks like or how to ever achieve that or what the steps are to get to financial freedom. So today I want to lay it all out for you and show you the exact roadmap for you to achieve financial freedom in your life. And I'll tell you right now, it's probably much simpler than you think. So the path to financial freedom can really be broken up into 6 separate stages, each stage with specific milestones that you need to achieve before you can progress on to the next stage. So stage 0 is dependency. So in this stage, you are 100% dependent on others to provide for you. Maybe you don't make enough income or maybe no income at all, and you need others to pay your bills and your expenses for you. And this is where we all start off as children, where we're 100% dependent on our parents to provide for us. And the truth is, there's still a lot of people in their early 20s and sometimes a lot later who are still largely or entirely dependent on their parents to provide for them. You're also in this stage if your monthly expenses exceed your monthly income, and maybe you're dependent on your friends and family to lend you money, or you're dependent on a credit card company to pay your bills for you. And in both cases, your debt just gets larger and larger every single month. In this stage, you are simply not able or not willing to make enough income to pay all of your monthly expenses. Stage 1 is survival mode. So at this stage, you are living paycheck to paycheck, but you at least make enough income to pay all of your expenses every single month, but not much more than that. And most of us went through this stage probably in our early 20s. We had some crummy entry-level job, we had some crummy car, we had a crummy apartment, but we at least made enough income to be self-sufficient and not dependent on our parents anymore. And unfortunately, this is a stage where so many Americans get stuck and they end up just living paycheck to paycheck, barely being able to pay their monthly expenses. So at this stage, you probably do have quite a bit of debt in the forms of credit card debt and student loan debt and maybe a car payment. You probably don't have much in savings or investments, and most likely you have a negative net worth at this stage. So if you add up all the debts and liabilities that you have, they far exceed any assets that you have, so any savings and investments that you might have. So if you're in this stage, what you really want to focus on is increasing your income. So if you have that crummy entry-level job, you want to get a promotion or get a better job, or you want to start a side hustle, right? Get a secondary job or secondary source of income so that you can pay off your debts and finally get out of this stage. So stage 2 is progress. So in this stage, you've increased your income to the point where it exceeds your monthly expenses. And now you have a little extra cash left over every single month. And that extra cash is critical for you to eventually achieve financial freedom. And congratulations, you are now doing better than 78% of Americans who were stuck in stage 1, living paycheck to paycheck. So in this stage, you really have one primary goal, and that is to take that extra cash you receive every month and pay off your debts. You currently have a negative net worth, and you're just trying to get back up to a $0 net worth. So when you're trying to get out of debt, there's really 2 main strategies or techniques that you can use. The first one, and the one that I am an advocate for, is going after the highest interest debt first. So let's say you have student loan debt, you have a car payment, and you have a credit card debt. The credit card probably has the highest interest rate out of all of them. So what you want to do is make the minimum payment on the student loan and the car payment and put all of your extra cash and anything extra that you have towards paying off that credit card debt. And the reason you do that is because that debt has the highest interest rate and that is the one that is charging you the most for the privilege of borrowing that money from them. After you've completely paid off your credit card debt with the 25% interest, then go after whatever your next highest interest rate debt is, probably your car payment. Put all the cash that you were paying towards the credit card now towards paying off your car payment until you've completely paid that off. Now there's a second strategy to pay off your debt, and that is going after the lowest amount of debt first. So let's say you have 5 different lines of credit or 5 different debts, and one of them was only $500. What you want to do is make the minimum payment on the other 4, then put all your extra cash towards paying off that $500 debt first. And the benefit to this strategy is more of an emotional one than a mathematical one. Now you feel like you're making progress, and now instead of having 5 debts weighing down your mind, you only have 4. And then you go after the next lowest one until that's completely paid off of, and now you only have 3, and then 2, and then finally only 1. And some people claim that they feel like they're making more progress with this strategy, and that motivates them to keep wanting to pay down their debts. Now the only debt that you are allowed to still have in this stage is going to be your mortgage payment. And the reason for that is going to be the only debt which is an appreciating asset. Over the last 100 years, real estate typically appreciates in value about 3% every single year. And by having that mortgage payment, you are not instead paying rent, which is typically going to be much higher for an equivalent size home. So if you own a home, your house is actually generating you a little bit of income every single year in the form of equity, and is helping you avoid a higher expense, which would be rent. So stage 3 is debt-free. At this stage, you've paid off all of your debts except for your mortgage. And at this point, you finally worked your way up to a $0 net worth, and past that, you now have a positive net worth. And because you don't have all the minimum monthly payments with interest on your different debts, now you can finally start saving your money. And at this point, you want to start saving up what's known as an emergency fund. So your emergency fund is typically 3 to 6 months of your monthly expenses. So let's say your housing expense and your utilities and all of your bills add up to $3,000 a month. This means that you want to have $9,000 to $18,000 in a savings account. And the purpose of this emergency fund is so when an emergency does happen, you don't have to relapse back into debt to handle that emergency. So let's say you unexpectedly lost your job and it took you 2 months to find a new job and receive your first paycheck. Instead of living off of your credit card for those 2 months and paying 25% interest on any debt that you accumulated, you can instead just rely on your emergency fund to cover you during that time period. And since you don't have to pay that 25% interest that comes along with credit card debt for all of your expenses during that 2 months, you are going to save a lot of money. And I actually recommend that you keep your emergency fund in a completely separate bank altogether than the one that you typically use for your everyday checking and savings account. And the reason for this is when it's out of sight, it's out of mind. You won't be as tempted to spend that money on non-essential items when you don't see it every single day. And specifically what I recommend you do is find a high yield savings account. Now I will admit that the interest rates on savings accounts are historically low right now, but nonetheless you can earn a little bit of money in interest by keeping your savings in a high yield savings account. So stage 4 is growth, and my favorite stage. So at this point, you've gotten yourself out of debt and you've saved up an emergency fund which you've set aside, and you've saved up some extra cash to invest with. See, this is a stage where you start putting your money to work for you to generate you more money. And there's really 2 broad categories of investments. You can invest in something that you think is going to appreciate in value, like stocks, cryptocurrencies, and real estate. And you can also invest in something that's going to generate you passive income, like stocks that pay dividends or rental properties. So as an example, let's say you saved up $10,000 and you invested it in the stock VOO, which is the Vanguard Index Fund, which matches the S&P 500, and I personally invest in. So over the last 10 years, the S&P 500 has seen an annual growth of about 7% a year. So in just 12 months, your $10,000 has now appreciated in value to $10,700. But VOO also pays you an annual dividend of 1.3%. So in that 12 months, it's also earned you an additional $130. So on average, over the last 10 years, if you had $10,000 in VOO, it would have generated you $830 over any 12-month period. So side note, if you want to get a head start on your investing journey, you can use my link in the description below to open up a free account with the brokerage Webull and get 2 completely free stocks. You get 1 stock when you open up your account, you get your second stock when you deposit $100. That second stock could be worth up to $1,400. Another example of an investment you can make is, let's say you save up $60,000 and use that as your 20% down payment on a $300,000 home, which you then rent out, and it generates you $100 a month positive cash flow. So now your $60,000 investment is going to generate you $1,200 a year in positive cash flow, and that $300,000 home is probably going to appreciate about 3% a year as well. So every year is going to appreciate about $9,000 in value. And if you can just keep a tenant in that rental property for the next 30 years, your entire 30-year mortgage will be paid off by tenants. Your home would probably appreciate and probably double in value over 3 years, and your cash flow may be as high as $2,000 a month once you don't have that mortgage payment anymore. So you can see why this is my favorite stage towards financial freedom. In this stage, you're putting your money to work for you to earn you more money. And this is a stage that I'm currently in, and I am constantly looking for opportunities that I can invest in that'll generate me more money. Personally, I'm a big fan of passive income, and that's really what I try to focus my investment strategies on. Stage 5 is financial freedom. At this point, you have enough money saved up, or you receive enough money in passive income from your investments that you could quit your job and retire early. Now, there's really no amount set in stone of how much you have to reach this stage. Some people will be perfectly happy with spending only $20,000 a year, while other people may need $50,000 or $100,000 a year. When you reach this stage is also entirely dependent on if you're willing to compromise on your lifestyle any to reach this stage sooner. For example, if your children have all moved out of your house, are you willing to sell your house and downsize so that your monthly expenses are significantly lower? Are you willing to move to a country like Puerto Rico where the living expenses is much, much lower than most of America? Are you willing to sell your house entirely and go buy an RV and just travel around the country? If you're willing to compromise on any of these lifestyle changes, then yeah, you could reach financial freedom a whole lot quicker than if you insist on living in a big house inside a city. And once again, if you wanted a head start on your investment journey, use my link in the description below to get 2 free stocks from Webull, one of which could be valued up to $1,400. You can get an additional free stock when you open up an account with Robinhood, valued up to $200, and you can get $10 worth of Bitcoin when you open up an account with Coinbase. Links down in the description below. And if you want to learn 10 hacks to pay your mortgage off early, check out this video I did right here breaking those down for you. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you over in the next video.